Welcome to Mental Health Ministry, Ephesians 6, and we are reading out of your Bible, New Living Translation, and continuing on chapter 25 in Genesis. Here we have the death of Abraham. Abraham married another wife, whose name was Keturah. She gave birth to Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. Dedan's descendants were the Ashurites, the Tushites, and the Leomites. Midian's sons were Ephah, Epher, Hanoch, Abida, and Eldah. These were all descendants of Abraham through Keturah. Abraham gave everything he owned to his son Isaac, but before he died, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them off to a land in the east, away from Isaac. Abraham lived for 175 years, and he died at a ripe old age, having lived a long and satisfying life. He breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zoar, the Hittite. This was the field Abraham had purchased from the Hittites, and where he had buried his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, God blessed his son Isaac, who settled near Bi-Lai-Roi in Negev. Ishmael's descendants. This is the account of the family of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, through Hagar, Sarah's Egyptian servant. Here is a list, by their names and clans, of Ishmael's descendants. The oldest was Nebaioth, followed by Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsan, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Chedur, Napish, and Kedema. These 12 sons of Ishmael became the founders of 12 tribes named after them, listed according to the places they settled and camped. Ishmael lived for 137 years. Then he breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. Ishmael's descendants occupied the region from Havilah to Shur, which is east of Egypt in the direction of Assur. There they lived in open hostility toward all their relatives. The births of Esau and Jacob. This is the account of the family of Isaac, the son of Abraham. When Isaac was 40 years old, he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean, from Padan Aram, and the sister of Laman, the Aramean. Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife, because she was unable to have children. The Lord answered Isaac's prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant with twins. But the two children struggled with each other in her womb. So she went to ask the Lord about it. "Why is this happening to me?" she asked. And the Lord told her, "The sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rivals. One nation will be stronger than the other, and your older son will serve your younger son." And when the time came to give birth, Rebekah discovered that she did indeed have twins. The first one was very red at birth and covered with thick hair like a fur coat, so they named him Esau. Then the other twin was born, with his hand grasping Esau's heel, so they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. Esau sells his birthright. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home, but Rebekah loved Jacob. One day when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness, exhausted and hungry. Esau said to Jacob, "I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew." This is how Esau got his other name, Edom, which means red. "All right," Jacob replied, "but trade me your rights as the firstborn son." "Look, I'm dying of starvation," said Esau. "What good is my birthright to me now?" But Jacob said, "First, you must swear that your birthright is mine." So Esau swore an oath, thereby selling all his rights as the firstborn to his brother Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and lentil stew. Esau ate the meal, then got up and left. He showed contempt for his rights as the firstborn. Before we continue on to chapter 26, a quick note. or chapter 25, verse 29 through 33. Think about impulse buying. Esau traded the lasting benefits of his own birthright for the immediate pleasure of food. The pressure of the moment distorted his perspective, made his decision seem urgent. Can you relate? When you see something you want, what's your first impulse? Do you have to have what you want right away? Or are you usually willing to wait? We can avoid making Esau's mistake by comparing the short-term satisfaction with its long-range consequences before we act. Chapter 26. Isaac deceives Abimelech. A severe famine now struck the land, as had happened before in Abraham's time. So Isaac moved to Gerar, where Abimelech, king of the Philistines, lived. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt, but do as I tell you. Live here as a foreigner in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. I hereby confirm that I will give all these lands to you and your descendants, just as I solemnly promised Abraham, your father. I will cause your descendants to become as numerous as the stars of the sky, and I will give them all these lands. And through your descendants all the nations of the earth will be blessed. I will do this because Abraham listened to me and obeyed all my requirements, commands, decrees, and instructions." So Isaac stayed in Gerar. When the men who lived there asked Isaac about his wife, Rebekah, he said, "She is my sister." He was afraid to say, "She is my wife." He thought, "They will kill me to get her because she is so beautiful." But sometime later, Abimelech, king of Philistines, looked out his window and saw Isaac caressing Rebekah. Immediately, Abimelech called for Isaac and exclaimed, "She is obviously your wife. Why did you say, 'She is my sister'?" "Because I was afraid someone would kill me to get her for me," Isaac replied. "How could you do this to us?" Abimelech exclaimed. "One of my people might easily have taken your wife and slept with her, and you would have made us guilty of great sin." Then Abimelech issued a public proclamation, "Anyone who touches this man or his wife will be put to death." Conflict over water rights. When Isaac planted his crops that year, he harvested 100 times more grain than he planted, for the Lord blessed him. He became a very rich man, and his wealth continued to grow. He acquired so many flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, and servants that the Philistines became jealous of him. So the Philistines filled up all of Isaac's wells with dirt. These were the wells that had been dug by the servants of his father Abraham. Finally, Abimelech ordered Isaac to leave the country. "Go somewhere else," he said, "for you have become too powerful for us." So Isaac moved away to Gerar Valley, where he set up their tents and settled down. He reopened the wells his father had dug, which the Philistines had filled in after Abraham's death. Isaac also restored the names Abraham had given them. Isaac's servants also dug in the Gerar Valley and discovered a well of fresh water. But then the shepherds from Gerar came and claimed the spring. "This is our water," they said, and they argued over it with Isaac's herdsmen. So Isaac named the well Esek, which means argument. Isaac's men then dug another well, but then, again, there was a dispute over it. So Isaac named it Sitnah, which means hostility. Abandoning that one, Isaac moved on and dug another well. This time there was no dispute over it, so Isaac named the place Rebophos, which means open space. So he said, "At last the Lord has created enough space for us to prosper in this land." From there Isaac moved to Beersheba, where the Lord appeared to him on the right night of his arrival. "I am the God of your father Abraham," he said. "Do not be afraid, for I am with you and will bless you. I will multiply your descendants, and they will become a great nation. I will do this because of my promise to Abraham, my servant." Then Isaac built an altar there and worshipped the Lord. He set up his camp at that place, and his servants dug another well. Isaac's covenant with Abimelech. One day King Abimelech came from Gerar with his advisor Ahuzath, and also Phicol, his army commander. "Why have you come here?" Isaac asked. "You obviously hate me, since you kicked me off your land." They replied, "We can plainly see that the Lord is with you, so you want to enter into a sworn treaty with you. Let's make a covenant. Swear that you will not harm us, just as we have never troubled you. We have always treated you well, and we sent you away from us in peace. And now look how the Lord has blessed you." So Isaac prepared a covenant feast to celebrate the treaty, and they ate and drank together. Early the next morning, they each took a solemn oath not to interfere with each other. Then Isaac sent them home again, and they left him in peace. That very day Isaac's servants came and told him about a new well they had dug. "We've found water," they explained. So Isaac named the well Sheba, which means oath. And to this day, the town that grew up there is called Beersheba, which means well of the oath. At the age of 40, Esau married two Hittite wives, Judith, the daughter of Beeri, and Bazimat, the daughter of Elon. But Esau's wives made life miserable for Isaac and Rebekah. In chapter 26, there is a big lesson on jealousy. So chapter 26, verse 12 through 16. God kept his promise to bless Isaac. The neighboring Philistines grew jealous because everything Isaac did seemed to go right. So they filled up his wells with dirt and tried to get rid of him. Jealousy can tear apart the mightiest of nations or the closest of friends. When you find yourself becoming jealous of others, try thanking God for their good fortune and thank God for what He has already given you. A thankful attitude is a helpful way to keep jealousy and anger under control. Also, many times I think, what is it that they do, that they have what they have? What is their mindset? How hard do they work? What do they do? So think of their blessings in a way of following what is right. One more point to end chapter 26 is a spotlight on Rebekah. And think about what God approve of the way you act. For example, Rebekah was a woman of action. Her hospitality to Abraham's servant helped her become Isaac's wife. Rebekah and Isaac had twin sons, Esau and Jacob. God had promised Rebekah that Esau, the older son, would someday serve Jacob, the younger son. When Isaac prepared to give his special blessing to Esau, Rebekah helped Jacob trick Isaac into giving Jacob the blessing instead. Esau was so angry, he wanted to kill Jacob. Rebekah did something wrong to help God's plan, and she made a mess. No matter how good our goals, we shouldn't do wrong to achieve them.